I would let now at this point. I want to go back to the beginning because I imagine all of your 10 years of experience has just built to whatever was going on in your head and how to make Space Cadet. And did you always know you wanted to be a brewer? I think you did.
I always knew I wanted to be a brewer. My friend Kenny in college, or right after college, he's just like, well, what do you think is a realistic goal of you doing? And I was like, I'll probably be the size of Sierra Nevada one day. No shot. But it was in my head, I was going to be 2 years after college, I was going to blow up and do this. I'm
Welcome back to the BrewedAt Podcast, where I'm your host today, Evan Blum.
Wow.
Joined by my co-host to my right, Cole Decker.
That's right.
Also co-founder of BrewedAt. And then on the other side of the table today, we have the CEO and brewmaster of Space Cadet Brewing Company.
It sounds like a brewmaster and CEO. It's like calling myself the CEO of a local bagel shop or something right now, but... I guess technically, yep.
Welcome on the BrewedAt Podcast, Richie.
Thank you. Feels fun to be on the nice camera side this time.
Yeah.
Get my better angle.
Yeah, no, it's funny. You being on the other side the first time, obviously, Cole and I have been around for your journey since the very beginning, and it's just something we're excited for you to talk about, publicly.
Yeah, it's I think when we recorded the podcast when I left Victory, but it was I was leaving, it felt good to say I'm leaving, I'm doing my own thing, but then it was just all right, well, what are you doing? I'm like, can't talk about that. And it feels good to I have kind of a plan in place about what I wanted to do, and I think basically everything I said, maybe the timeline is a little bit different, but basically everything I said from that podcast 10 months ago, I've done exactly that. So it feels good that I stuck to the plan and take a step back. I actually followed it. But yeah, it doesn't feel how I felt or how I would expect to feel. Kind of just in the moment, everything happening.
Yeah. So you have this is the first time officially saying Space Cadet Brewing Company, I believe, on the podcast. A fun fact is we've had this little astronaut guy here for I don't know how long at this point, but it's been an Easter egg, so there has been thought into it for quite a while. But besides that, we want to run through your history as a brewer as well. You've been in and around the industry for about 10 years now, and it's not something we've really got to talk to enough. So that's something I want to go to. But first, I want to just know, where are you at with Space Cadet, and what's happening right now?
So what's happening with Space Cadet right now is, I went through the process. If you follow me on Instagram, I kind of went public with it. I got my brewing license. I got signed to a contract brewer, so I said I was going to have somebody else make my beer for me. So Workhorse out of King of Prussia, shout out James and Nate, they're going to be making my beer for me. And then I will be distributing beer through Penn Wholesale. So what I'm doing right now is, I'm making the brands. I'm kind of doing all the background business stuff, and I'm essentially the marketing sales portion of the business. Brewmaster, I'm writing the recipes, making sure everything works out, doing all the regulatory stuff with the labels and everything, and just kind of putting myself out there. I guess event coordinator, wearing a lot of different hats that aren't brewer right now. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, a couple different helpers right now. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Just kind of right in the middle of it. Today is Tuesday. Thursday will be the first brew day. And
are you going to be there? Are you going, or how does that?
I should be there for a little bit. And then the beer will be done end of September. Beer will then hit. So I'm going to do a presentation. I met with Penn. I've been talking with them, but I'm going to go in, do a little introduction to the rest of the sales team, kind of introduce them to my brand, tell them exactly what my plan is as far as how I want the brand presented, where and how I want the brand to be sold, what my vision of it is. And then that following week, it'll go out and hit to stores, bars, restaurants, all that stuff. So right now I'm driving all over the place, trying to sell beer to people.
Yeah.
Doing a lot.
So I just want to take a step back and start just at the origin of Space Cadet. Like, where did the name come from? I feel like the name's like such a difficult thing to come up with, and your brand. Like, how did it start? How did Space Cadet come to be?
So, I mean, I've said this before. Like, the plan was always to open up my own brewery, but the name, for craft beer is kind of so important. Mm-hmm. So, really, what Space Cadet started off as was like 4 or 5 years ago. There was a meme of Ben Simmons, and he was like, "Ben Simmons, would you rather shoot a 3-point or go to the moon?" And then it was like just Ben Simmons dressed up as an astronaut, like a very serious look on his face, and I just thought it was the funniest thing. And it was just like, it was perfectly photoshopped, and it was just like, it looked exactly like, what do you want? Do you want to shoot 3-point? He goes, "Nah, I'm cool. Like I'll go to the moon." And I just thought it was very funny. I don't know why it just stuck with me, but I thought that picture was very funny. And then so I had my friend Alex Conroy, not the greatest Photoshop person, but he did his job. It's great. Now that picture is in the newspaper, but I made that my profile picture of just me dressed up as the astronaut. I was like, all right, this is a funny picture of Ben Simmons. It'd be funny if I was an astronaut.
Is that the same photo that Ben Simmons was?
Yeah, and it was just we photoshopped that picture out of, and then...
Yeah, for the record, best thing Ben Simmons has brought to Philadelphia is Space Cadet Brewing.
Yes. So that... the meme kind of me dressed up as the astronaut. And then I just thought it was funny. It was my Instagram picture for a while. And this was still a couple years before it was Space Cadet. And then, Sam and Alice were getting ready to open. I was like figuring out like, wow, this is like something that I think I'm going to be doing. I had been, kind of juggling in my head like how this actually works. I saw them doing it, but like, how am I going to do it? I'm not a... As much as it's very similar, like I'm not a bar. No. I'm not a dog bar. Like I'm a brewery. I need to figure out like how I'm going to do it. So I was laying out kind of like in my mind how exactly I wanted to do it, and just kind of going through the process. And I was just very messed up one night. It was just kind of like, as sometimes creative ideas come to you, but I was like, all right, what is this like? I know at some point you just need to like step off a ledge and just like go for it. Mm-hmm. Like it doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter what the name is. And I was just like in my like, out of body state or whatever you want to call it. It was like what do I want to do? So I was looking at myself, and really for the past couple of years, like I had known you guys at this point, but like I was trying to kind of not make a name for myself, but I was exploring, getting on social media, getting my voice. I was doing beer dinners. I was talking to some clients. It was like, it felt like I was becoming my own as far as like not just a brewer, but I was like talking on behalf of Victory. Like it felt like, and that was my job. Like as the brewer, as the taproom brewer there, like part of my job, a lot of my job, I would say probably half my job there was not brewing beer. It was like being the spokesman for Victory. And it was something that I wasn't doing previously. Mm-hmm. And really when I was getting into brewing, the breweries that were very popular and kind of got past the small brewery, hit the large regional brewery size. Bill and Ron are an example. Sam Calgione, Gary Albert, he wasn't the owner, but he was the brewmaster of Brooklyn Brewery. Ken Grossman, Jim Cook. It was like they always had this front and center leader that was in front of the brand. Yeah. And I think part of why people like craft beer is not just the flavor, but they're buying into the experience that this is a product that they can reach out and touch. And they felt like they were connected to it because they felt personally connected to this individual that built up this, bootstrap brand. Yep. And I think craft beer had almost lost that. So in this state of how do I do this? I was kind of becoming myself, but truthfully, I've gotten a lot better at public speaking, but I was not a good public speaker. I didn't know how to use social media. I was not good at marketing. I don't dress well. It was like how I know I need to be this, but that's not who I am. So how do I do that? So then I was just thinking I had this profile picture, it's kind of like this character And there's this idea like fake confidence is confidence. Like you can like just put yourself out there, just pretend you're doing it, and just kind of fake it till you make it. But I saw this character like me dressed up as an astronaut. I was like, I could almost play like the Joker or something. But like to put myself out like that, like to call yourself an idiot. I'm not an idiot, actually an idiot. But like also like that's not the image I want to project as far as the front and center of my brand. Yeah. So I needed to like kind of take a step away from that, but I felt like I could play off of that as like almost a character. So
something that I think real quick, like something I think you do, I mean, better than anybody I've seen, and I'm on so much craft beer media, it's probably very unhealthy. But you put yourself out there really, really well as a young person in this business. I think like Sam Calagione still actually does a great job because he's like front and center of dog.
Yeah, and I wasn't good at it, but I knew the only way I was going to get better at it is if I just like throw myself out there. So, you know, I was the best man at my brother's wedding. I was the best man at my other friend Kenny's wedding, and it was like kind of forced me to like, you have to go out and give this speech. Yeah. And that, and then along with like kind of going on these podcasts and, you know, doing these beer dinners, I was like learning how to speak in public. I was getting more comfortable and I realized like I just have to like throw myself out there. Yep. So the character really came from like, all right, I need to like find something that's like an arm distance away from me. So in my head, I kind of came up with, what if I just like created this character that was like me, but like not me. You know, it's like a puppet of me. So I don't always have to be in front of the brand, but it's that same idea of like me personally, I'm in front of it. Mm-hmm. So I mean, if you look at the character. This guy right here, I mean, you're going to see it all over my Instagram. It's like, it does resemble me. And it's not supposed to be me, but it was like, that's kind of what it was based off of. So it's almost like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where like, he has like this vision, he comes home and like builds this mountain. Yeah. I got back from this trip and I was just like, all right, I know I want to do this. Like, literally all you have to do is just do it. You know, like, you just have to take the first step. I had this idea of the Space Cadet. I was just sitting there on my couch, like, I don't know how to do this, but like I just need to do something. Once I do something, I can build off that a little bit. So like I just created this image of this Space Cadet that was in my head, and it was not this good looking, but it was very, very similar to what this looks like. It might be blurry. I mean, I don't know if you can pop something up or something, but it looked very similar to this, and it was so much so that like I just had to get it out of my brain that like. It's literally, it spans across 3 pieces of paper. It's like 1.5 foot tall, and it's just like, I just started drawing it from like the head down, and just built it, but it's kept, alright, it needs to now go on, but I ran out of papers. Then I had to like tape another piece of paper onto it, and just like, I was like, I just needed to get it out of my brain. And then like, I wrote like the lettering across, and it was just all black and white. It was similar to what this lettering is in the back, whereas that, and then he was off to the side. So I didn't know, you know, obviously I was like, all right, this is something I can base the brand off of, but this looks like, you know, a third grader drew it. Like, I'm kind of creative, but like, I'm not, I don't want to do this like that. So I'm like, all right, how do I do this? Like, probably the first step is like, I need to find like a illustrator, or I didn't even know like the difference between like an illustrator and graphic designer, honestly. Like, obviously like the stupid thing to think about, but I'm like, I've never made a brand like this.
Prime example, everybody's doing this for the first time.
Exactly. And that's what I realized, like, as part of this is just, like, once I got it past the idea of, like, I don't know how to do this and stop me, it's just, like, nobody knows how to do this. You just have to, like, go into it head first, and you just have to, like, realize that nobody knows what they're doing when they're starting a business. You have to do it for the first time to really learn it. So what I did was I went and I told some very close friends. I didn't want to tell anyone at this point because it's, like, this is so early. One, to tell people about an idea like this, and then not do it. You know, everyone knows I want to start my own brewery. So like, to tell people I'm going to do it and then not do it is almost like, all right, I have no faith in you now. Yeah. So like, I didn't want to tell anyone I was doing it. So I told some very, very close people that I was doing it. I told my sister-in-law because I knew that she would say, I love that idea. She was like, she's just too nice. And I told some people, they said, my other friend, Paulie, his wife, Emily, does... what's it called? Talent acquisition for Marble. Now, she couldn't give me Marble people, because that's against her contract. But she knows a lot of illustrators.
Yeah.
So she hooked me up with this guy, Matt Gaudio. Shout out Matt Gaudio. He's incredible. He's not drawing Space Cadet characters. He's drawing like legit Marvel level illustrations and comics all day. That's what he does for a living. So she connected me with him. First person he connected me with, and that's just my illustrator. So I showed him what I had. I walked him through my whole idea, the brewery, kind of what the concept and what it is now is very similar to kind of the general idea of what I wanted the brand to be. And he was able to kind of produce this image. And then I was like, all right, you can produce this image, but that kind of looks like what I'm doing. Let me give you like 3 other ideas of like a social media post, what a social media post would look like, a can art, to see like how you can interact. And he just he does this for a living. It's incredible. So he was able to kind of take this character and run with it. I was like, all right, this is something that I can work off of. So, me being a brewer, I don't think, at least before, I wasn't thinking along the lines of like profit and loss and like how a normal brewery owner or business owner should think, because I've been doing that for 10 years. As much as I went to brewing or business school, I've been brewing beer. What I know is like I can see beer that I think will sell well. I know how to brew beer. Beer tastes well. I think I can sell that. But like as far as the general idea of like how business is set up, I didn't understand that. But I thought I understand what this label looks like. I understand it. If I can sell just this one product.
Yep.
So then I built kind of everything all kind of off of that.
I like this from your perspective, and just like going into the brand, you came out of the gate with such a strong freaking brand compared to like maybe some people have.
Yeah.
And you are like a classically trained brewer, but other places maybe came out with some strong beer, and now they're trying to like piece together what a brand might be.
Well, I think
you started
way.
I think what the difference was, because I went through, I cut my teeth, like I did my time. I went through, I've been studying, reading about beer for the last 10 years. I've gone to all the conferences, I've read all the books, I've listened to all the speeches, all the podcasts, I've done everything. Like, I know as much as there is to know about kind of, obviously I'm not the greatest brewer in the world, but like, I know enough that like, I have a great understanding about how the beer industry works. And I kept like thinking about these different brands, stuff that was different than this, and there was always like, well, this isn't going to work because of this. This isn't going to work because of this. And I think that, that was the difference where like, it took me a while to kind of figure out something, but I made the right move.
Mm-hmm.
I knew, like, once I realized and I came across this idea, it was just like, I couldn't find anything that, like, why it wouldn't work, and then I was just kind of able to step right into it.
Yep.
And I knew I could kind of, like, build off of it.
And I would now at this point, I would, like, go back to the beginning, because I imagine all of your 10 years of experience has just built to whatever, like, was going on in your head and how to make Space Cadet, and, like, did you always know you wanted to be a brewer? I think you did.
I always knew I wanted to be a brewer. My friend Kenny in college, or right after college, he's just like, well, what do you think is like a realistic goal of you doing? And I was like, I'll probably be like the size of Sierra Nevada one day. Like, no shot. But it was like, in my head, like I was going to be like 2 years after college, I was going to like blow up and do this. And like, obviously, the plan has changed. I think brewing industry has turned more into like almost like what a chef or like a high value restaurant would be, where like you have to kind of cut your teeth in the different kitchens. There's not many brewers that are starting off with like younger people. I think like the Humble Parlor guy is younger than me, but there's not really many people that are younger than me. Like, you basically have to be like high 20s, early 30s, and that's like the youngest kind of to start a brewery. It just takes a while to learn everything.
And so you went to Penn State. Where'd you go?
Went to Penn State, studied business management, and I knew sophomore year that I wanted to do this. It was like, professors were always talking about it. Craft beer was running so fast. I was like, even before I went to college, I was like, I didn't know I wanted to be a brewer, but I knew I wanted to. I liked the idea of like owning a family business. Mm-hmm. I liked the idea of like, producing a good, not selling like something that's just like a made up financial something. And it's like, I like the idea of like making something and giving it to them. Like, I know it's like a very small brain way to think about it, but I like the basic simple idea of like, you give somebody a good and like you make their day, or like something, they gain some intrinsic value out of it. Mm-hmm. So I knew I wanted to do something like that, but like, how do you make a widget? Like, this is my widget essentially. So like, I knew I wanted to open up a business and then kind of back-ended my way into brewing.
And so then from there, you got your start at Flying Dog in Maryland.
At Flying Dog, so I was already signed up to go to brewing school in college, but it was like a year and a half wait. So after I graduated, I basically applied to jobs all summer. I mean, craft beer is growing so fast that, like, a lot of people were hiring, but, like, they were, like, unpaid internship. I was like, I went to college. Like, in reality, I probably could have gotten an unpaid internship and then, gotten a job a lot faster, but I was just, like, holding out. And in the end, I still made $13 an hour working overnight shift. But it was, like, it was a job. It was getting my foot in the door. I was doing actually brewing work, actual production work. It wasn't just, like, I was, like, cleaning kegs. So moved down to Frederick, Maryland, worked for about 6 months, and then went to brewing school, which was mostly online. So it makes me like online and in person in Vermont.
What was like the biggest thing you learned from Flying Dog?
Flying Dog was a 100,000 barrel brewery, but none of it was automated. So all the simple processes of like, being super disciplined. Like, I think I like relate things too much, like making things metaphors, but like it was almost like you had to be so disciplined. It was almost like being in like a dojo or something. Like as far as like when you're connecting two soft hose to the bottom of the tank, rinse, caustic, rinse, sand. You rinse it, you hit it with caustic, so soap, that's a basic thing, so it cleans off all the solids. You rinse that off, and then you hit it with sanitizer. So sanitizer is acid, and there's no rinse. And like you had to do that. And it was like very strict about everything because everything was manual, and everything was like very hands-on. The sanitation and the cleaning and the purging and everything was just like very strict. And it was like you had to do it or else things got infected. Like nothing was automated. You're doing everything yourself. It was a lot of running around, a lot of manual labor. I think that's part of why Flying Dog is now not owned by itself. It's owned by FX Matt, not even brewed there anymore because they just kind of let the brewery go and they didn't update it. And, labor is the most expensive part of brewing beer when it gets to that size. And they had 3 times as many people as they need because nothing was automated.
Interesting.
But part of that was I learned a lot. It was basically like being in a kitchen and being like a prep cook. So I was like, I was in there cutting my teeth. I mean, that's what it's called. It's like I was doing everything. I learned everything. And then I did that as I was going to brewing school. I started off in the cellar. I think a lot of times when people start in brewing, if you learn brewing first, so there's 3 kind of sections. It's like when you get into the brewing world, it's I guess there's 4 major ones. So it's like brewing hot side, cold side cellaring, and filtering. A lot of breweries combine cellaring and filtering, and then packaging. Now, I've worked a little bit in packaging, but like not full time. But I started off cellar. I started filter and then cellar, and then it took me like 4 or 5 years until I got into brewing. I think a lot of times when people get into brewing and they start brewing right away, they're like, I know how to brew. And then they start doing cellaring and they're like, I already know how to brew. Like, I've been brewing 3 years. Like, I'm not going to break my back, like, learning this, like, very labor-intensive thing and going through the process. I make great beer. Yeah. It's the foundation. Yeah. And you can make the best wood in the world. But if your tanks aren't clean and you don't have good yeast health, it doesn't matter. Brewing is all about cleaning. It's about cleaning and discipline. It's like 90% cleaning. The hot side, the brewing side is the easiest part of brewing. So like it was just ingrained in me so much to like, this has to be clean. The DOs have to be under like 50 parts per billion. And that was like every single day there was issues because it was like all manual brewing was just hammered into me. And like, I think I just got this like great sense of like the standards of what a cellar should be. And then when I finally learned to brew, like the brewing was just easy after that. It was just like learning like the intricacies of like writing recipes and a lot of like it's making soup, It's like you're not having these strict like sanitation issues or DO or microbiology issues or carbonation issues that you have on the cold side.
Is there like a lack of is there people that can kind of skip cellaring and go like right into it, or like, is there like a stereotype about those people like, oh, like, this guy didn't like?
It's not a stereotypic. I'll judge you, but it's it is. I think cellaring is definitely harder, but it's like even when you're within a brewery, it's a lot of manual labor. Yeah. And like it does very much feel like it's like you're in a gym or like you're at something where like you're coming together as a team. And the brewers are always the superstars, That's actual brewing. Like when the public looks at it, they're a brewer.
Yep.
And I think all brewers that are like actually production brewers like understand that, but I think like the public doesn't realize like good beer is made in the brew house, great beer is made in the cellar.
So okay, side note question: are most brewers clean people in general? Then, like, is that
dirty look but clean? I guess process.
If I were to go to a house of a typical brewer,
I would say probably the complete opposite of that.
Yeah.
But they keep their tanks clean. Like if you're making good beer, like the people that are making good beer understand this. It's like it's all about cleanliness, and cleanliness is all about discipline and following the standard operating procedures. You're using the right chemical dosages. You're making sure there's not blind spots. You're cleaning stuff out. Swabbing stuff, make sure it's clean. You're keeping, people, the public doesn't think about TPO or oxygenated beer. That's
cold does. But.
Yeah, I mean that's the main issue with as far as after cleanliness is oxygenation, because you can make the best beer in the world and you have oxygen in it. 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later, it's going to taste like cardboard, like actual cardboard. So you're just being very strict and disciplined about that stuff. And like I said, I think just right from the beginning, I got that like right away. Flying Dog job sucked. I mean, it was a lot of work. It was running around nonstop. I mean, I was doing 20,000 steps a day, middle of the night, soaking wet because it was just like all manual labor. Everything was broken. But I think that really was a great experience for me because it just kind of set this great base of like, a standard of like how things should be cleaned. I also learned like all these like setups for like cleaning tanks where like you don't have like a CIP skid. You actually have to like build the rig in front of the tank with the pump with like block and bleeds everywhere. And I just had this great understanding. So like when I got into doing small batch brewing for Victory, it was like I think that sometimes there's a disconnect. Like you can brew great beer, but then like your kind of cellaring falls apart. Where I was just like ripping through the tanks, cleaning them perfectly, and it was like after that, at that point, it was just ordering materials and writing new recipes.
Yeah. So something me and Cole talk about all the time, and something I always say to him is like our formative years of doing BrewedAt, I felt was building this road that one day we would just kind of run on.
Yeah.
And over unbeknownst, just kind of didn't know where that would take us, but everybody we've met over the course and just build these fun connections with has now allowed us to go to our next phase.
For sure. And I would say this, I think when like you guys started off by making content, so like making content, editing content, making all these things that are like, nowadays there's podcast studios all over the place. There's people that edit your videos for like a couple $100. You could very easily just go and be like, I want this idea. You have some money, you put it together. But you guys understand how that works. You understand like the base of the business. Like you need to understand this process. That's why this podcast is for people. It's not me and you.
Yep.
It's for people, and it's split evenly. Like there's more important things than just sitting there and screaming my head off. It's like you need to have the solid base and understand like the background stuff to make everything else look good.
Yep. And I mean, to me, that's literally what happened for you at Flying Dog.
Yeah.
And then you moved into your first stint at Victory.
First stint at Victory, I was working in the cellar. So James from Victory hired me. Just funny, because James hired me twice in Victory, and now he's brewing beer, managing the brew house there at Workhorse. So very serendipitous. But, so I worked at Victory, again, working in the cellar, but, so cellar filtration. That was great. I think Flying Dog was like great because it hammered in like, you have to do these processes. But Victory, I mean, I can beat the Victory drum all day. I mean, you guys know I'm the biggest Victory cheerleader. I think the standards that they have, everybody there is like so smart, like master's degrees in science, and it's like, they're doing everything right. Mm-hmm. And, not just on like the brewing, but like also like kind of on the, people management and HR. It was just like, it was a great company to work for. And it was a very automated brew house. Mm-hmm. So they were kind of doing everything. I was like, look at all my complaints about like, oh, this is like so annoying. But I learned a lot. We're kind of fixing those issues also. So I kind of saw that side of it. But again, I was still just working in the cellar.
Did you do any production brew for Victory, or was
I
your
did a
first-
little bit of production stuff, but it was mostly like, we know you want to get in there,
Gotcha.
throw you a bone, but like, you know, it just is what it is. You gotta put in your time here before you can get up there.
Yep. So then your next piece, how long were you at Victory before then you went to
I
Philly
forget, like a year and a half maybe. But I was living in Phoenix over 6 months after I moved out from Maryland. So
Gotcha.
Phoenix was about half an hour away from Parlor. But I was like, I don't want to live in my hometown.
Yep.
Like town over from Phoenixville. I need to move down the city. So I moved down the city, and that like drive was like an hour and a half, and I just still wasn't in the brew house. So I'm like, the end goal was always to open up my own brewery.
So you're
I just
trying
got
to
the brand, like trying to get the brewery and trying to do anything. So I just floated my resume out there, and Philadelphia Brewing reached out like, we actually do need somebody, and you can just jump in right away and be the head brewer. I'm like, all right, well, forget just like learning how to brew. Like now I'm going to be like, you know, running the brew house. There, I mean, besides Bill, I was the only person there that had brewed anything before. You know, nobody even knew how to brew. So it was like I was like stepping in, and there was a lot of responsibility as far as like maintenance and kind of making sure things didn't fall through the crack. And as much as Victory was kind of this perfectly run company, they also had this like full army of like support staff that would then like everything. Everyone's doing the right thing.
Yes.
Right.
Philadelphia Brewing is like a much smaller operation.
Yeah. So a lot more. This is your first time having full responsibility and just.
Yeah, so I was like sitting there like, what do you mean we don't have a lab to do my cell count for me? Like, let alone pull the yeast and do all this other stuff. It was like, literally, you're doing everything.
Yeah.
And everybody was doing everything. Like, when John came on, it's like, it's a kind of a very family business there. Like, you're doing everything. So I was there for about a year. It was great. Saw some small batch stuff, saw kind of like the different another angle of the brewing industry.
What was the first beer you made there?
I mean, Kensington is just the bread and butter there.
Gotcha.
But I think I wrote a recipe.
Was that your first time writing a recipe?
Yeah, it was at Working Cat. So it was just like a pale ale with some grapefruit in it.
Just sold the menu.
I think so. Yeah. So it's like it's a cat. It's the picture of Duke, who's a working cat, eats their mice, and then it's like a caution sign around it.
Right.
Which is I remember vividly. Like I pulled up behind a car, and someone had taken the label and like plastered it on as a bumper sticker. And I was freaking out. I took a picture of it. It just made my day.
Yeah, like they have a shirt now too.
Yeah.
Last time I was in there.
Yeah, it's cool. And I love Bill and Nancy and John and everybody over there. But I was happy there. It was like I was working in the city. I was brewing there. Mm-hmm. But then I saw when Victory announced that they were going to open up the tap room. Steve McMillan, who I used to work with at Victory, reached out to me even before I saw it in the newspaper. And was just like, hey, we're doing this. It's gone public, but like I don't know if you've seen it yet. And there's actually a link open to the head brewer position downtown. And I was like, I mean, he knew that was kind of what I was looking for.
Yeah.
I mean, it was exactly what I was looking for. I was living with Sam and Allison at the time, and I was just like, this is the job I need. Like, I'm going to be able to get run my own tap room. I'll be able to see a full build out. Like, this is what this is exactly what I wanted.
And so, people that don't know, I guess, like the crazy and cool thing about this is, while it's Victory, this Center City tap room like operates as like a microbrewery from an innovation side as well.
Yeah, I mean that place is a machine. I mean they have so many guests in there. It's a craft beer place. There's people that aren't craft beer fans that go in there. Mm-hmm. And there's also like a fully operational brew house there. It's a very special place there. I mean I didn't know that going in.
Yeah.
But I knew it would be weird going back to a job that I just left a year and a half ago, or actually a year ago at that point. So they put in like, you know, you read job descriptions, and here's the qualifications. They have like 16 different things. I need to explain to them like why I left. Like I'm applying this, but like I don't want you to just write me off as like I left because I was like just frustrated or all this. I wrote them a 20-page paper, 20-page single-space paper. Why I left,
single space.
Why it made sense for me to come back. Wow. Everything that was like on the why you like what are the qualifications, why I qualified for each one, and why I should be there compared to anyone else.
And this was, what year was this? There's no ChatGPT at this point.
I was gonna say.
No, this was. I mean, I legitimately wrote it out. I mean, I told when Steve sent it to me. I told Sam and Allison before I even applied. Like, this is what I need. Yeah. This is the exact job I want, and it was. It was exactly what I wanted. But yeah, man, I wrote them a thesis. I was like, this is what I need. This is why you want me here, also.
I've never written a paper longer than 10 pages, let alone fucking 20.
Single space.
I did
Single space.
the old school ChatGPT where you just, grab a couple beers and then just type it later.
But at this point, it's like, you're familiar with Victory and you literally know, this is...
I knew what I wanted, and I think I even wrote that, I think I want to open up my own place one day. I think this is a great opportunity. I'm not ready to do that right now, and I have no plans to do that right now, but, this is the perfect opportunity for me to kind of, flex my creative muscles, help you guys out. I know I can work. I already understand. You guys could hire some outside person, but I already understand the Victory, culture.
Yep.
I can very easily slide in. You don't have to onboard me. You don't have to train me different, in the brew house or in the cellar. I already understand everything that Victory does. Mm-hmm. I can just move right in and start working. So that was in 2020. Immediately, COVID happened, and then I just went back to the job I had already quit and worked there almost as long as I had worked there before when I quit the first time.
So you went back to Philly Brewing?
No. I worked at Victory in Parksburg, working for cellar, doing the same exact job that I already quit for almost the same exact length of time that I was working there before that I quit the first time. Wow. And the light at the end of the tunnel kept getting further and further away of nobody knew what was going to happen during COVID.
Of course.
So eventually, the tap room happened, and it was good because I got this extended runway of I could think about how exactly I wanted the brew house build out to go, getting all the equipment, and it kind of set me up for success, hit the ground running right when it opened. Yeah, and that place was a booming success right when it opened. It was insanely busy right from the start, and basically has not stopped. That place is amazing.
That place,
great location too.
A great location, great food. It's it had the perfect team. Connor Martin was an amazing GM. The whole leadership team was there. By far the best job I've ever had. It was a perfect situation.
Yeah, I just have this visual in my head always when you talk about working there. Since they have an innovations part of it, where you're just kind of this mad scientist, crumpling up paper, throwing in the trash can, kind of making whatever brewer you want, with such a state of the art setup. So I guess how much creativity did they let you have?
They let me have a lot of creativity, but part of when I was working in the cellar there before the tap room opened, it was all right, we got to throw this kid a bone. This kid already quit on us once. So James, who's now working at Workhorse, was just all right, I'm tired of this kid being annoying. Let's put him on the innovation team because then he can learn how to write recipes. He can be a part of this. So the big bet was brotherly love. So I've said this in past podcasts when I was at Victory. We wrote and brewed 50 or 60 recipes of that. And that, as much as writing new beer recipes, you learn how to brew. I've said this before, writing consistent beer recipes is really what matters. So if you're shooting a rifle, you talk about I forget what it's accuracy and consistency. It's
precision.
Precision. It's if you hit the bullseye once and then you miss 3 times, you're a terrible shot. But if you're shooting at the bullseye and you hit in the same exact spot, 3 inches to the left and up, but they're all grouped together, that's a zeroing issue. Then you can zero the rifle down to then hit the bullseye. So brewing the same beer over and over and over again as I was writing the recipe and learning how to write recipes, it was I was learning what all these different levers I could pull of the different parts, the IBUs, the malts, the different specialty malts, the different dry hops, what time the dry hops, the different yeast. And I was zeroing in on that system. I was learning also just kind of how to write recipes. Mm-hmm. So then when the tap room opened up, it was just they basically were just go out and do what you want to do. It's part of being a pub brewer is you always have, the system is small enough that you're always going to sell the beer. and you have like this basically unlimited customer base that you can just like throw beer at. So it was like they like kind of let me do what I was doing, and I mean, it's one random thing. It's like BrewedAt. I don't want to say like brew whatever I wanted. Like obviously, like I was not like this rogue person there. Like it was very much like I was like an employee there, but they gave me a lot of freedom to kind of brew what I wanted, and like they trusted me to kind of test out what I was doing. And I think like kind of testing some stuff out after I've gone through like the whole brotherly love process was very beneficial to me.
How often would you come up with new recipes?
I mean, it was every single time. So like the whole idea now of like writing recipes all the time. It was like after I'd done it for a year and a half, like when I came up with this thing, the brand that I have, which we'll get into, it's like I can just make new recipes. I felt it just gave me a lot of confidence, mostly. Like I messed a couple beers up, but like for the most part, like every beer that I was putting out was good.
I remember after we met, every time I would pop in to Victory and just like, I don't know, talk whatever we're doing, you would hand me like 3 different beers. I'm like, well, this is great. This is great.
Yeah.
It was so much fun.
No, it was a fun place. I mean, they had 11 tanks there. So it was whatever I wanted to brew. I always had to back all the stuff that was kind of ready to go. It was fun.
Do you always feel like you could like make a great beer, or was it like working cat was successful? You're like, all right, like maybe I can do this, and then like once you got into Victory, you're like, okay.
No, I really didn't understand the recipe process until like I went through and I was like writing part of like the brotherly love team. But I mean, I had not written recipes or kind of brewed beer like that, but I read so many books and gone through the classes that like when I was actually like learning it, like everything was seeming to like come back to me so quickly.
Yeah.
It was like almost like it took me forever to kind of get started. I'd say this. I don't know if I've said it on here or some other place, but like when I was learning to ride a bike, my mom told me that like I would just ride my bike down the hill and just like crash it in at the bottom of the hill purposely because I wanted to like learn how to crash before I learned how to ride, so that like I felt more confident riding. Yeah. So then it was like.
You're not scared to crash.
I wasn't scared to crash, and like I'd gone through like the worst of it. I'd figured out all the issues of like, this is not what I'm supposed to do. Before like instead of just like I'm trying to figure out what I want to do, I had to like figure out all the things I shouldn't do before I think I do that with a lot of things. I think I'm like slow to kind of step into things. That's changed a lot because my life is moving at hyperspeed right now. But for a long time, it's like. I always kind of had to like tiptoe my way through things and figure out all the issues before I kind of stepped into it.
I guess like just bring it all the way up back to Space Cadet. I guess like using that logic of like crashing and like the only way I can feel confident doing something is if I know all the ways that I can like recover from the failure of it. Do you come from like a creative background of like drawing or sketching and like coming up with branding kind of stuff, or? I
think I've always been. I mean, it's weird to say that you're funny, but I always think that I'm like kind of a creative, funny person. My mom is very artistic. My mom is a what's it called? A fine arts degree from college, and then she got a master's degree from Penn. And she's a very creative person. My dad is like almost the opposite of that. My dad sells insurance, is very much like oriented, like. Straight edge kind of, and I think that might be a balance of that maybe. I think I've been like creative, but I'm not like brewing. Yes, I'm technically creative. Like I can't draw, I can't play music, I definitely can't sing.
Yeah.
You sure?
I try to dance, I can't dance, but it's like I didn't find anything until like brewing. I think it took me 8 years to kind of step into that where I was like really doing it well.
Yeah.
Sick of your POS system being a POS? POS Specialists, powered by Heartland, have been the experts in cutting-edge POS technology for over 20 years. But they're not scriptwriters, so they let AI write their script. Thirsty for a delicious deal? Feast your eyes on our tastefully crafted point-of-sale system. From order up to cash out, this POS is the coriander spice your brewery needs. It'll have you saying, Brost. Yikes. See? That's why they have a 24/7 live phone support, not chatbots. Their experienced project managers will program your POS, train your staff, so you can just focus on the beer and not worry about the AI. Ask about their free processing options, handhelds, and online ordering. Email Kevin at POS Specialists.com. Mention BrewedAt and get $500 off your install. Email Kevin at POS Specialists.com.
And from then, the victory piece, what it's been building for a long time, but what made you say, like, now it's the time to
I saw Sam and Allison doing it, and also it's just like, you get to the point where it's like, quarter life crisis, like, what is this going to happen? Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I kind of came to this realization, like, this whole thing, like, well, I need to figure out all these different things. And, like, that's what I was doing with brewing. Like, I'm not ready because I don't know this part. I'm not ready because I don't know this part of brewing. I'm not ready because I don't understand this part of brewing. But, like, it doesn't matter. Like, you know this, just go out and do it. It's like the only way you learn how to do it is if you go out and, just kind of step into it. So,
one of my favorite things, like, that I learned from my former corporate job is it doesn't seem like anybody in corporate knew exactly how things operated. And once I learned everybody's, like, kind of on an equal playing field, I felt like, oh, yeah, me too. And it gave me the confidence to go and just do.
Definitely. And I don't know, like, this is basically like a year of this happening. So I, like, went through, saw my friends get married, everybody was, like, doing great. I was, like, still, like, barely making ends meet, like, living with my friends. I bought a house, but, like, I was house poor. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, the whole point of this was to open up my own place. Like, let's go out and do it. So I don't know if it was, like, it was definitely a mindset change. I mean,
yeah.
Like, after that, like, not to get, this is, like, getting more personal, but, like, after that, like, I met Monica, and, like, I immediately went down to Mexico, and it was, like, a crazy experience. Mm-hmm. And kind of, like, all of that happened, like, all at once.
Yep.
And I think it was just, I was, like, ready. I was, like, on a one-way mission. Like, it didn't matter, like, what was happening. With getting the Space Cadet, that's kind of, like, what it is. Just, like, it doesn't matter. Like, I was, like, kind of, like, let's fucking do this thing. And I just have, like, a different mindset about stuff.
Entrepreneurship is a mindset.
It is. And it's, like, it's very much, like, I'm in it now where, like, I just kind of, like, take stuff on the chin. And, like,
yep.
You guys know this, too. But it's, like, it's just stepping out and, the podcast, leaving Victory to do this, like, starting to date Monica who lives in Mexico, like, it's, all these things were, like, kind of, like, crazy things that, like, aren't normal. I don't say normal, but, like, it's not, like, it was, like, definitely a left-hand turn of how I was leading my life before.
Yeah. It's not as rigid, it's not as planned out, it's not... You just gotta.
Yeah, you gotta jump. You gotta take a risk. But it was confidence. I think it was like finally maybe not confidence, but it was like just trusting yourself. It was just like it doesn't matter what it is. This idea that like, what if this happens? What if this happens? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm here. I know I can do like whatever's coming at me. Like, we're gonna figure out and make it happen.
And now at this point, like, you also have 10 years experience to.
Exactly. And like now that like I'm doing it, I'm like, what took me so long? Like, but it's like I don't know if I had done this 5 years ago, 8 years ago, even 2 years ago. I don't know if I would be having the same experience. Like, obviously, you can't answer that.
Yep.
I know right now I feel, my life is very stressful and it's like insane, and I don't know what's happening, but I do feel very confident, about everything. It's like, I don't know. Like you said, it's a mindset thing. It doesn't matter. Like, it just. Cutting the strings, we're going to make this happen one way or the other.
Yeah. Nice. And I think everybody's going to look back at maybe even this episode, the Wolves, but to see that, and that's super cool.
Yeah, and I think, going back to what I was talking about, like I was reading all the biographies, even in college, like these entrepreneurs, and like these were my heroes, Bill, I even looked up to. Like, I was lucky enough to like where he became like a friend and like someone I could actually look up to professionally. But like Garrett Oliver, Sam Calagione, like Ken Grossman, these were the people that were like my heroes and like the people that like I was chasing after, and I learned a lot from them because they were talking about all this stuff. So I don't know. It feels good to kind of like be stepping out, going into it.
So you're stepping out into the Philadelphia beer industry.
Yeah,
which is dense with some incredible brewers.
Yeah.
What do you think you offer to that scene?
And I think I offer something different. There's a lot of breweries that are here that there's a lot of people that come from different backgrounds. There's a lot of Iron Hill breweries.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you like I talked about before, like it felt like I like being in breweries almost like being in a dojo. We're gonna have Ruby on. I talked to him from Secret Vice. I talked to him about this a little while ago. Where like, you know, it's really like who trained you. You know, a lot of brewing is just like who were you shadowing for 6 months before you actually got to have a solo shift. That's kind of like what shapes you, and those people end up being like kind of leading you, and then, you know, that's what brewing is. Then you know, give it back to the next generation of people coming up. Like my favorite part of brewing was showing other people, teaching other people, like kind of what I was doing. So like what I'm bringing is my kind of unique perspective of, I've worked at a lot of large regional breweries. I think a lot of people that start small breweries or start breweries, their whole career has been small breweries, and they just kind of see this like, this is how you do this, but then they get stuck in this is just their small brewery way of thinking. I think I have a different perspective where most of my career has been larger breweries. I think I'm a creative person, so I think the branding is very creative.
Can I add that you also, I feel out of anybody we know, you're very in touch with what the future of beer also is looking like.
I mean, that's part of why we did this podcast. It was just like, you know, I think a lot of people are just kind of stuck in this hamster wheel brewing, and it's just like, that's why brewing is kind of like, you know, stalled out. You know, part of what we're doing here is like, you know, getting not just Gen Z, but other people that are like non-traditional craft beer drinkers attracted to craft beer, and you know, I think they just have a different perspective. And as much as like, oh, it's another straight white guy with a beard starting a brewery, it's like I don't feel like I'm the same as everybody else. I know that's like they're not.
You just have to shave.
Yeah, but I've never felt like. I was never in touch with like the local craft beer scene. Like, as much as I knew it was happening, I was never like beating the pavement with all of it. Maybe people look down upon that, but I think I come from this unique perspective. Like, all my friends are like super yuppie, white collar workers. Mm-hmm. I just was never part of like this like grunge, you know, alternative scene, and I think that like. Being a part of the grunge alternative scene without being a part of it almost sets me apart. Like I'm like a part of the mass, but being a part of this alternative scene, I think it's different.
100%, and that's another thing that me and Cole talk about all the time.
Yeah.
I think our biggest value in what we're doing is we bring in such a different perspective.
You're not part of the scene, you know.
Exactly.
You haven't been in it for a couple of years, where you've been like indoctrinated in like, you know, the negative mindset of what it is.
Yes.
Getting trapped in these like, you know, brain loops of like, this is how it's done. Like, is it? Because
does it have to be that way?
Is it just like this because it's this way, or does it have to be that way?
Yep.
That's what the most fun is too. Is like just totally getting rid of any chains of like you were saying.
Yeah.
This is how it's been done before. This is how it's supposed to be done. Like we don't know how. We just don't know how it's supposed to be done. So we're just doing.
So whatever we
everything and all, everything makes sense.
Yeah.
Which makes it super fun.
Yeah.
And now, like, I want to get into your first technical beer that's going to be coming out, like...
I mean, we can...
Brewed on what, Thursday?
Brewed on Thursday. So I put together...
At the point of when this comes out, it's probably already brewed, but...
Yes. So I put together this little brand introduction book. I think because my brand is so different with the single batch beers... and who I am, and the character, I've kind of put together this little book so people can understand that, like, when you go to a bar, it's not just like, I'm the new brewer. I think I am bringing a different angle to it. So,
it's like right around there.
The whole point of it was, like, I needed, like I said, like, at the very beginning, like, I wanted to create this character that was, you know, myself, like, almost an extension of myself, but not me in a certain way. So, like, how do I do that? So, like, I've created this storyline of, like, this mascot that's going to get launched into space on this mission to find the perfect beer. Like, perfect is, like, a subjective thing. Like, because flavor is subjective. It's like, there is no perfect beer. So this guy is just on this never-ending quest to essentially just drink beer.
And so you've told me this before, and I just kind of realized this. So he's currently in the water in a pool. Why is that?
So like you're supposed to make you think a little bit. You know, it's supposed to be funny, but also like a little like thought provoking. So Splastronaut. So when astronauts train to go to space, they train in a pool. They train, you know, they do like physical training. They train in a classroom, like G-force training. But he's daydreaming, like the whole idea of a space cadet. He's a space cadet that is a space cadet. Mm-hmm. So it's like a pun where like he's like daydreaming that he's going to go to space. So like he's not actually an astronaut. He just thinks he is. So he's in a pool thinking he's being an astronaut, but it's a public pool. So it'll be fun stuff like that, and with the brand, it's going to be single batch releases. So every single time a beer comes out, that's the first and last time it's going to come out. So there's going to be a limited amount of beer that's going to be in the entire market, all 8 counties. So Philadelphia, Montgomery, Berks, Bucks, Chester, Delaware, Lehigh, and Northampton. And
that was impressive.
I've said it a lot. I've been running around trying to sell beer to people for the last couple of days. But it's taking this idea of craft beer and like all these ideas that like what craft beer, different brands trying to do, and taking them to the extreme. Mm-hmm. So like this idea of a branded house versus house of brands. Like a branded house or house of brands would be like Ford as the Ford Focus. Ford, I don't know, the Ford cars, Ford Mustang. Mm-hmm. They have all these different things that they're selling individually, but they're not selling just the Ford car. Tesla would be an idea. Yes, Tesla has different models, but a lot of people look at Tesla as like you're just buying a Tesla. Mm-hmm. Yep. Or like if you're buying like Gucci or Supreme, like clothing brands do this, where you're just buying into the brand itself.
Yep. You trust what the brand is going to be doing.
Exactly. So the individual brands themselves, like throwaway brand is not a great way to say this because like each brand I'm putting a ton of effort into.
Sure.
But it's less about making these brands and trying to like focus on like 18 different things at once and like making all these things happen. Then I can just focus on one individual batch, put that out on the market, then focus on one individual batch, put that on the market, so that people will, understand and be attracted to the Space Cadet brand itself, not the individual brands.
Yeah. So two questions now. What is the first Space Cadet beer, Splastronaut? And
so the first beer, Splastronaut, it is a 5.5% pale ale. So a pale ale, like I like the idea because I'm contract brewing. I'm selling to wholesale. My price is higher than normal. If I were to just go out and make a lager, because everyone's making lagers now, one, I'm trying to fill it a square hole, and then everyone else is trying to fit a square hole into. But I'm not going to be able to compete with anybody price-wise. Mm-hmm. But hops are something where it's like a premium product. You can add this like intrinsic value of adding hops. Mm-hmm. I think part of why craft beer got big was because they had hops, and because even before hazy IPAs are what built craft beer. So for craft beer to just like completely forget about what made them, I think is crazy. So I like the idea of like a hoppy pale ale. The one is like an unoffensive thing that anybody could add to their draft list. It's not some insane beer that I'm like trying to like get this unique brand to, but then also teach them out of the beer. Like the beer's gonna taste great. People are gonna drink the shit out of this, but it's something to just kind of like get your palate ready, and then we'll like jump in and start doing some crazy stuff. So the first one is a 5.5% pale ale. It's with Pilsner, Vienna, and honey malt. So 5.5% ABV is not enough ABV to add sweetness to the beer, but by adding Vienna, which is sweetness, almost like this Cheerio, honey nut Cheerio flavor, and then honey malt just tastes exactly like honey. It adds this sweetness, this like artificial sweetness that you wouldn't normally get from a beer like this because the ABV is too low. But you need the sweetness to balance with the bitterness of the hops and the juiciness of the hops to make it actually taste fruity. So you need sweetness paired with fruity hops to actually make it taste like fruit. And then Citron Mosaic is just like, that's like can't miss essentially. There's a layup. So they're everyone's like probably the most used craft beer hops right now. So again, this brand is just to introduce the brand. The next beer I'm not ready to announce yet, but it'll be a West Coast Pale and West Coast IPA, 6.2%. And then, like I said, it's just going to kind of keep rolling from there.
Gotcha. So like the first impression you want to just be like a tried and true.
This is my brand, and like I'm selling the brand anyway. And it's like, now this is insane. The beer price is, I'd say, like, I don't want to be too expensive. The beer price is very reasonable compared to like a lot of other beers are putting out. Like when I go to bars, people, they're like, this is in the same line of all the other beers, brewers that are making their own beer, what they're pricing it at. They just, I know I just kind of cut the corners, and like it'll be great.
So the other thing I remembered now was, how long have you been sitting on this recipe?
The recipe, not so much. It's like I'm going to be writing recipes all the time.
Sure.
To make this like the greatest recipe of all time. Yes, I think this recipe is amazing.
Sure.
But I also think the next recipe is amazing.
Yeah.
I have the first 5 recipes lined up, and I think that they're all going to be great. But part of this is like, I'm going to brew this. The second batch is already lined up, but the third batch, maybe like part of him going into space is supposed to be told in parallel to us growing as a company, me brewing new beers in the company. So it's supposed to be like, yes, it's this fun, stupid astronaut, but it's supposed to have like kind of like this deeper meaning of like us growing as a company. So I'm hoping people can kind of see through the cuteness of it and kind of see that there is like some deeper value to it. But yeah, I mean, I can tell you what my first 2 beers are. I can tell you what the third and fourth beers are going to be. But really, those things are going to be, growing and evolving with the character.
And besides your connection at Workhorse, what do you think sets them apart? Why were they the perfect choice for you?
I mean, they make super consistent, super clean beer, and like if you're making your own beer, like that's really what I think from a brewer's perspective. They talk about lagers or like what if you can make a good lager, you make good beer. But what they're talking about is that consistency, the clean flavor. It's not the fact that there's no flavor; it's the fact that there's clean flavor and it's brewed very consistently. And Workhorse does like a tremendous job at that. They have a beautiful 30-barrel roll system, amazing brew house. I think it's like completely underrated brewery in the area. I think
100%.
Everybody should be drinking it.
When I went for the first time, I think it was like a Tuesday night at like 4 p.m. It was packed.
Yeah, they make amazing beer, and they sell a lot of beer. But I think sometimes they get not a bad rep. I think they're just undervalued. I think it's just like such a high quality brewery. I think that they should get a lot more attention. Mm-hmm. So when they said they could brew for me, I jumped at that.
Nice. Yeah, I feel like probably once you established the Space Cadet character, probably like your mind must have just opened up, because I feel like once you get into like space as a theme, I feel like the possibilities are kind of endless.
It's endless. The one thing I don't want to get pigeonholed as the astronaut brewery or the space brewery. It's less about it being space themed. It's more about the character himself. So like, I want the character personality. Like nobody would say like, what's that movie with like Chris Pratt and the tree?
Guardians
of the Galaxy. Like,
my favorite movie of all time.
Yes, it's a space movie, but it's not like a Stephen Hawking, like this is the universe. Yeah. It's just a fun thing, and space is just the background experience of that. But really, the value of that is the fun characters and what they're doing. So like, what I'm trying to create is like this character, but then everything else is kind of just this background support of that character.
Yep. So right now, as we talk, first batch is being brewed in 2 days. Can we discuss on what's to come next for Space Cadet?
Yeah, so I'll be doing a launch party at the Boozy Mutt November 1st. So it's two months away from now. Exactly 2 months, or just under 2 months. But I know there will be some live music. I don't want to say too much because like I'm still like in the middle of trying to plan this with Sam and Allison. But yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be open to the public. I think I'm going to sell some of my premium tickets with some like extra fun stuff to get. But for the most part, it should be a celebration. I mean, Sam and Allison, the Boozy Mud has been incredible. I'm kind of like following up with like another alcohol brand. And I think it'll be just a fun time. Like they have tons of people there all the time. I think they were just like jumping into that. I think will be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, completely agree, and they've been amazing, just even through you and everything. So that's a cool place to like literally launch Space Cadet.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. I know my second event is going to be at the Trap Tavern. So I grew up in Schwenksville, Collegeville area. The Trap Tavern was a staple. Dave Jerry was a great friend of mine growing up. His dad and his parents owned the Trap Tavern. I mean, if you've grown up in that area, like, you know, people grow up there. Like, they were having a funeral there today. I talked to Dave, the owner, Big Dave, and he was like, they have funerals, they have baptisms, they have everything there. And it's because it's a staple. Like, it's been around forever. It's great food, it's great drinks. It's just a great time there. And I think it'll be good. You know, because I don't have my own physical location, I'm going to kind of like treat my accounts as premium accounts. So like, it's a limited quantity. It is this exclusive brand, so like the beer is not going to be everywhere. You have to look at like on our social media, on our website where it's going to be. But I want to like kind of like part of that is like I want to then give back to the accounts also. They're trusting in me and buying my beer. I want to then bring a crowd to them and give them, you know, service as well. So kind of sharing the love out. So the second one will be at Trap Tavern, and then kind of just figure it out
from there.
Yeah.
And so it in general, it doesn't stop there. Aspirations are
I need to open up a tap room
location.
For sure. Not as quickly as possible. Like, the first step, I'm focused just on the launch. Once the launch goes, then I'm going to be starting to look for a tap room. You know, if a brewery wants to give me the production space, I'm happily move in. But in my mind right now, the steps make sense to open up a tap room right now and then open up a production space somewhere after launch. You know, that might change, but in my mind, I think that makes sense to, you know, open up the tap room. You know, I've dipped my toe in. Next, I'll dip my foot in. You know, running a tap room is like a much bigger step than just launching this contract brand. So then I can like kind of learn how that works. And then, you know, I've already brewed on a production scale. I think owning the production space will almost be the easiest part.
Yeah.
So, but it costs a ton of money to do that. And it's to wait for the perfect space doesn't make sense either. Like, I need to keep pushing. So do this, find a tap room, and then find a production space.
Yeah, I do want to talk about the merch as well. I recently acquired just about an article about how merch and restaurants have just had this like really strong relationship recently.
Yeah,
where,
I read
like,
that.
Yeah, most people have just like kind of rock like different merchandise from different like cool restaurants around the city. You're currently rocking merch. I saw you had an amazing photo shoot from Monica. So
yeah, I think this shirt is very basic, but like the same way that like the first beer coming out is just like kick the tires, see what's up. Mm-hmm. I think where I want to be is putting out kind of unique stuff. So I think there's a lot of cool brands. You know, Heavy Slime does a great job with this, where they put out like unique merchandise all the time, and it's like very Philly centric. It's very Philly oriented. I think something like that makes a ton of sense for our brand because it's like illustration based, and they're very relevant as far as pop culture stuff. You know, like stuff comes out. You know, Castellanos hits a Grand Slam.
No.
They're making a shirt about it or something. You know, if Space Cadet, like if something happens, like I can very easily kind of plug this guy into something. But I think there's a lot of kind of, you know, local merchandise. Like I think Middle Child does a great job at it.
Yeah, that's a good line for me too.
Yeah, they create these unique. It's almost like streetwear, street fashion brands. The same way we talked about how craft beer is kind of it's getting stale. Like everyone's kind of doing the same thing. Like, oh, here's your shitty frisbee and your canvas shirt and
frisbee.
It sucked. And
It did suck. It's the worst thing frisbee.
No, I'm kidding. I haven't heard of your frisbee.
Not too
But
bad.
it's like a lot of the same stuff, and like there will always be a market there for that. But like I think you're limiting yourself to that, or it's not fun to do that stuff. Like, I want to kind of push the boundaries. I want to do fun stuff. I'm not the most fashionable person, but like I don't need to be the fashion person. Like I'm just basically that person. Like I can talk to other people and we can figure out some stuff that'll be cool. People will be excited to wear around the city.
Cool. Yeah, and then so you've been currently driving around Philly quite often, just like seeing all these different neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Is there anywhere you might be leaning, like as a neighborhood?
Part of this is, I am Ubering right now. Like it's getting a business off the ground is not you just start it. Everything is sunshine and rainbows. Like the entrepreneurship journey, as much as it's a mindset, it is very much a struggle. You have to build. You're not just building your salary. You're building a business that then can support to pay you as a salary. It's not just you're making money for yourself. There's all these things that need to happen. Like most people aren't paying themselves for like a year or so, and like I'm not even having product out. So like as I'm building this, I'm Ubering, and it's given me the opportunity to kind of see the city in a whole new light. I've seen these neighborhoods. I've driven through a lot of neighborhoods that I was just driving through before: West Philly, North Philly. Some I don't want to say rougher neighborhoods, but yeah, the rougher neighborhoods. And it's like I've seen not just if you saw my business plan, like when I first wrote it, it was just like I need to be in Fishtown, and this is where the money is, and the hipsters. I'll make my money here. Now I'm driving around, like I'm realizing that like there's all these other great opportunities that exist. I think we just talked about how Attic was doing this great job in Germantown with Matt, and I really do think that. I think Germantown, when you drive through it, you're like, this has been destroyed by whatever. I don't know, like what is right to say, urban blight. Like it just people ran away from that area, and it's just it is kind of a rough area, but it's beautiful there. Yeah, it's right by Route 1. I think Attic has done a great job going up there. That's one spot that's going to come back. And not to say that I will be there. I also like West Philly, Carbon Copy, and two locals have done a great job kind of like stepping into that market that's like severely like kind of underutilized.
Totally.
South Philly also. I mean, there's a lot of breweries struggle in South Philly. I don't know why, but there's so many people that live there, and like there's great restaurants, there's great bar scene there. I think people actually go out during the day. I don't think I'm pigeonholed to just being in Fishtown and Northern Liberties anymore. Mm-hmm. Even Brewerytown, where Booze and Buddies, I think is a great neighborhood, but it has opened up my eyes. Even like kind of the Northeast, I have a much better understanding of how the city's laid out, kind of arteries, and not just this neighborhood's cool because there's cool people that live there. It costs more expensive where there's cool stores here. Yeah, I have a much better, more realistic understanding of like the different neighborhoods that are laid out. So we'll see. I mean, like I said, I'm an open book. Part of why I'm doing this way is I'm putting myself out there. Yeah. I own almost 100% of the business. My parents own just a little bit, just to kind of help pay my bills, kind of. But it's, part of this is to kind of just step out on my own and show people, like, listen, I got this brand that's kick-ass. I know what I'm doing. The only thing I'm missing is a location, and I'm just missing a location because it costs a shitload of money. Yeah. And, I also, not to say that. I mean, there's a lot more to that. I'm also looking, if the right partner steps in, whether that's a restaurant partner or someone that can focus on the business, or even if it's just like a brewing partner, they can just focus on that, and then I'm just going to just focus on sales. I do like the idea of teaming up with somebody, but it's got to be really the right person. Like I'm able to do this and support myself. You're not going to outweight me. I can do this all day or for the rest of my life. I like this. I'm putting myself in the driver's seat. Yeah. I have the cool brand. I'm ready to make the next step, but it's got to be the right opportunity.
Well, I'm ready to run through a brick wall. That's awesome.
So I guess we will then wait to see where Space Cadet lands.
Yeah, I'm not going there. I mean, I'm sitting exactly where you sit every other week. So I'm sure whenever it does come up, I'm going to be telling people about it.
Well, I mean, I think we're running out of time. That one's there. But is there anything else that didn't get a talk through on Space Cadet right now?
No, I mean, you should follow me at Space Cadet Beer on Instagram, at spacecadetbeer.com on my website. If you're interested or you know somebody that's interested in carrying Space Cadet Beer, just reach out to info@spacecadetbeer.com. or just reach out to your pen sales rep, or just go through their portal and order it. Then also, like I said, I'm looking for opportunities. So, if you think you're the right opportunity, just send me a DM. Everything's going directly to me right now.
Yep.
And yeah, I'm ready to get started. This is, lifetime, basically like my entire adult life has been kind of like built up to this. I was talking to Monica the other day. She's like helping me out with stuff. Obviously, if you look at my Instagram, it's like I thought I had this great character. It turns out Monica's like world class photographer. She's just blowing all my branding out of the water. She like sent me a picture. She's like, "This picture's terrible." It's just like the best picture I've ever seen. So it's helping me out on social media. You can go check her out, whatever she's doing there. But well, I completely lost my train of thought. It's yeah.
You have a beer company, right?
Yes. I'm kind of excited to get started and kind of show off the brand.
Now, this is going to be a special brand. I think everybody around you, and I mean, obviously us, like, know this. So we're.
This is what I was saying. So the launch party, Monica's from Mexico.
Yes.
She has quinceañera. So it feels very much like I'm like putting myself out there, like I'm presenting myself to the world, like this is me, like not that sounds like very self-centered, but like the brand is me, it is me. I want to put myself out there. I think that's what made craft beer, so great back in the day. It was very innovative. It was also people willing to put their stamp on it. Like this brand is me. It's blood, sweat, and tears. What I put into it. And, I'm ready to put it out there publicly and kind of show the world, like, this is Space Cadet, I'm ready to go.
Well, this is awesome. It's been fun being on your side of the mic. I do like the side quite a bit.
I was going to steal it.
No, I don't know. I'd have to really know somebody pretty well, but I mean, everybody's excited. And I can't wait. There's obviously going to be follow-ups where I can get back into this position. We can talk about Space Cadet.
Definitely. I mean, we're not going anywhere. The podcast is doing great. I think we have a ton of exciting guests lined up. We just filmed like 7 episodes in the last 2.5 weeks of great guests, great interviews, and the people that we have lined up coming up next, like, are, I don't want to say better, like I love all of our guests, but we have some big names coming up. So it feels very cool that like the brand is launching, but then also it feels like the podcast is about to take off as well.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I'll throw it. Cole, anything else on your side?
No, I think I covered my base. I'm just excited.
Okay. I'm just excited to have Cole on here.
Yeah, right. It's also weird to be on this side. I must say. I think we started on this side though.
I don't.
Because I remember on the thumbnail, like flip us, and like your shirt is like BrewedAt the wrong way.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean. That's it for us. So you could follow us at the BrewedAt Podcast. You could follow us at BrewedAt. We have some really cool things coming out soon. And you could also follow us on YouTube, please.
And follow Space Cadet Brewing on Instagram.
Space Cadet Beer.
Instagram, Facebook. Check out the website.
Not Facebook, Instagram. I think TikTok, and my website. I might be on some other things. Twitter, maybe.
Okay.
I haven't posted anything, but I'm on there.
But, okay, that's it from us. We'll see you in 2 weeks.